So they seemingly have six-baggered their AUM, their money, their assets. From 2013, they had about $10 billion. Today, looking at some like disclosures and reporting, they have about 62 billion dollars. So they've like 6x their money. If I look at my own performance over the same period, I've 15x'd my money. So Philippe,
So how did you do this, Badger?
well, investing in the same companies pretty much, but getting into some of them much earlier. I was in Intuitive Surgical, I was in Apple, like before these guys. I was in Netflix and had a much bigger allocation to Netflix. Like that's part of it. But there is something interesting here, right? This is the advantage that we have as retail investors with our, meager, tiny investments that don't move the market in any way. It's hard for guys like Kotu and Ark and their like to make like big bets because you move the market. And if you wanted to buy like $500 million worth of stock in something, even if it's relatively liquid, like you can't do that in one transaction. You have to go on, you have like a special mechanism. You don't just go and buy the stock, and you have to do it in tranches. And you also get slammed by regulations. Like if your assets are above a certain level, and certainly these guys qualify, like you have to disclose if you have a material stake in a company. So it's not like you could do something like secretly and build up like a stake. Once you have what I think more than 5% ownership of a company, like you have to disclose that. You have to file a public report to the Security and Exchange Commission. And then also, like you suddenly have like insider status once you own more than 10% of a company. And that's going to put like other constraints on you. Us little retail investors, that's our massive advantage over the big boys because we can just make we can build highly concentrated portfolios if we want, and our numbers are nothing like this, so we can have like big exposure to micro caps if we want to.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Badger. There's a huge number of people that falsely believe that they can't beat the market. And that's probably because, statistically speaking, is it most like hedge fund? It's the numbers that hedge funds don't beat the market. Like they have one great year, right? Then they put their shingle out. Look how great we are because we did this, but then they don't repeat their performance for all the reasons that you mentioned. But individually, I think as long as you're willing to do the work and to educate yourself, you could be much more nimble, and you don't have to, you're not susceptible to all these regulatory hurdles. And so beating the market is totally possible. So tip of the hat to you for for having your results whoop this pretty serious investing house.
Yeah, well, I'm whipping everybody's ass, so they're not standing alone, right? Like if people say the market is rigged, and that's true, but what people are missing, it's rigged in our favor for all of those reasons. It's rigged against the big institutions and the guys with all the money and all the massive like processing to do all this, really like dark arbitrage and weird stuff. It's rigged against them. So it's rigged in our favor because they have all these other, they have to report to their investors every quarter. And if they're not showing, chart goes up. And if they're not in like the hot stock of the moment, then they're going to get like their investors bitching and withdrawing their money, and this AUM starts going down and the whole model starts breaking. We're not accountable to anybody. Like you and I, the worst thing that will happen is if our portfolios fall apart, like we're going to impact ourselves and we're going to look like idiots on the podcast in a couple of years' time if we've massively underperformed the market for like a whole cycle. Like I'm happy to underperform for a couple of years. That's the nature of the game. But like if we're clearly bad investors, we can look dumb and it's going to impact our lives. But there's nobody saying, "Oh, Luke, like I want my money out because you're failing as an investor." I just need to convince myself, and that's such a powerful asset to have.
Amen. So